Okay, great. Okay, first on the agenda tonight is the adoption of the July 29th, 2020 meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second it.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
In favor?
Anthony Giardina,
In favor.
Howard Dubs.
I wasn't at that meeting, so I guess
Oh, that's
can't
right.
vote.
Okay. Harvey Bonaparte,
Yes.
Michael Nolan.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have an extension request for, how long do they want to extend it? It's an extension for the Bowditch at 21 Ridgewood Terrace for a generator. And I'm looking for how long they want an extension for, and I don't see it.
They're asking for 1 year, I believe. Tony.
Yeah, in Testa's letter, it says 1 year.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, okay, I think that we ought to give a year, given the fact of the coronavirus situation, getting work done is taking a lot longer than it used to, and getting the approvals is taking a lot longer than it used to. I have no problem with the 1 year extension.
I agree. It may even take longer knowing Con Ed.
Well, we'll find out what happens after a year.
All right.
You need a motion to extend then.
I move that we approve the extension.
I'll second.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
Yay.
Anthony Giardina,
Yes,
Harvey Bonaparte,
Yes.
Howard Dubs,
Yes,
Michael Nolan.
Yes.
okay, our first case tonight is Berman. Are they with us?
I am.
Hi, this is Bill Spade, the architect, and Scott Berman is the property owner. Shall we go ahead and get started?
Yes, please.
Okay. Scott will have a couple of comments he wanted to make to start off.
So thanks for putting me on the agenda for tonight. The plan that we have in mind is my property sits at the corner of a pie-shaped lot. We've lived here since 1995. We love the community, raised our children here. We want to continue to stay in the community, and we're interested in both during the time of COVID and post-COVID to increase the outdoor living space for our children and our grandchildren, and for us to enjoy. Because we're in that, the house is located in a corner of the property, we need a variance because of the setbacks to be able to add what we have in the plans, and that is a front porch, a patio to the side, and a screened-in porch on an existing footprint of a deck, which would replace the upper deck. And Bill will describe that in more detail, I expect. I should note that we've told our neighbors on each side of our house what we plan to do in great detail, and they are both more than fine with us doing it. So with that, unless you have any questions of me, I'll turn it over to Bill.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and describe in more details what Scott has mentioned here. So as you see on our plans, Scott's property is there's a little more than 1 acre. It's in the 1 acre zone of the town. The house was built in 1966. It's, as Scott mentioned, at the end of a cul-de-sac, and the property slopes downhill from the cul-de-sac. And as a result, the house was built tight up into the corner of the property adjacent to the cul-de-sac, just to limit, I guess, the length that you'd have to go to get to the house. So both the existing front of the house and the side of the house, the front of the house extends already into a side setback. The corner of the house is very near the front setback, and the left side of the house is very near the left side setback. So anything that Scott would like to do around his property on the sides or in the front would require variances. And so as compared to maybe a more normal house where a rectangular lot, there would be property on the sides and potentially even in the front to do these kinds of very normal things that he would like to do. So what we're proposing, there are three elements of this project, two of which need zoning variances. So the first is to create a front porch across the front of the house. They presently have a very tiny little porch, and they have a very beautiful landscaped area in the front of their house, and they'd like to be able to enjoy being sitting and looking at that in the front yard, and so would like to extend the front porch. So we're proposing a 45-foot wide by 8-foot deep roofed over porch. Would be just about 1.5 feet above grade. There presently is landscaping across the front of the house where the porch is proposed. But the right corner of the proposed porch would extend as the house is as well into the front setback. And so we need an approximately 7-foot variance for the side yard for that front porch. As well, the left corner of the front porch just extends slightly into the front setback. So we're seeking a 1-foot variance in the front yard for that front porch. The other part of the project that requires a zoning variance is the side patio. There's presently an open lawn area on the left side of the house, and we're proposing to put an on-grade patio there. One aspect of this house as well is the topography, and the rear of the house, the basement is fully exposed, and then and then the property continues significantly downhill from there to where in the middle of the property, there's about another 20-foot grade change from the back of the house. So there really isn't any usable flat area of the property at all. And the flat area that is the most usable at the moment on the left side of the house is where we're proposing this on-grade patio so that they could create an outdoor seating area that's adjacent to the hot tub and deck that are there. I should have mentioned before, we were before the board back in 2007 to get a variance for the installation of a hot tub and little deck area around it. And as a result of that use, they'd like to create this patio area to work better with the hot tub. I'll also mention that the right side of the house where the garage and driveway come down to, extending beyond the driveway, is the septic fields. So immediately around the house, there are very limited spaces where you could create functional outdoor areas. So this left side yard becomes our the best location for this kind of patio. And as identified on the plan, the corner closest to the patio closest to this left side lot line is 19 feet. So we would need a 16-foot variance in the left side yard for the side patio. So again, as a summary, we need a 1-foot front yard variance for the front porch, a 6-foot right side variance, or sorry, 7-foot right side variance for the front porch, and then a 16-foot side yard variance in the left side for the patio. We're compliant in all other respects in terms of FAR and coverage ratios. We're good on those counts. As Scott mentioned, he'd spoken to his neighbors on either side, and they're fine with the improvements that are being proposed. I'll also point out that there is significant vegetation along the side lot lines between the Berman's property and those neighbors, and as well a gradient down. So in terms of any visual impact on the neighboring properties, there really isn't any because of the significance of the vegetation between, as well as the fact that these improvements are down gradient from those adjacent houses. So in summary, I'd say, as you know, in terms of the criteria for the zoning board, whether these benefits can be achieved in any other ways, as we've described, it's very limited locations around the property to be able to do these kinds of improvements. So there really aren't any other locations on the property to achieve these. We don't believe it creates any undesirable change in the neighborhood characteristic or to nearby properties. We believe the requests are not substantial and in keeping with the character of the property. There are no adverse physical or environmental effects from the proposal, and the difficulties are not self-created, as they are, it's a result of the house being tucked up into and against these setback lines and even over the setback lines, so that any improvements require the variances. So that's our summary. Are there any questions that I can answer for the board?
I can tell the board that I'm familiar with the property because I walk up there just about every other day. And what Bill said about the not being visible from any other properties is absolutely correct. It's totally hidden. It's down a steep driveway, and it doesn't really impact any other properties visually, and shouldn't be an issue for anyone.
Bill, could you repeat the variances you're looking for? I'm not sure they precisely match what's on the application.
Yeah, and in fact, I struggled to find the copy of the notice. So I was going by what we showed on the site plan, and if that was, I know Jackie and I went over the notice, so I might have said something different on the notice.
I think Tom's notice of denial had the building inspector's notice of denial has the requested variances listed.
Yeah, so we'll go with those, because I know Tom and I went over those.
Okay.
The proposed patio was a front yard setback 7 feet, and then side yard setback was 15 feet for the patio, and the porch was front yard setback 2 feet and side yard setback 7 feet.
Okay, great, thank you.
And did you hear there might be a vaccine soon? This is the first application where someone has used the pandemic as a rationale.
Well,
I've spent a lot of time working from home since I left my office on March 12th and haven't been back.
any plans to continue?
Carrie, is there anyone who has raised their hand or wishes to speak on this application?
Currently, no. If anyone is interested in speaking, please raise your digital hand or type into the chat box. I don't see anyone for this application.
Any board members with any other questions or comments? If not, I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
Yay?
Anthony Giardina,
Yes,
Harvey Bonaparte,
Yes,
Howard Dubs,
Yes,
Michael Nolan.
Yes.
I'll make a motion. I move that the Berman application the installation of a patio and porch be approved for the following reasons. The applicant has explained that the location of the house, its placement within the plot rendered it a challenge in terms of making any modifications that don't require variances. The variances are the patio, front yard 7 feet, side yard 16 feet, porch, front yard 2 feet, side yard 7 feet. There will be no undesirable change produced in the character of the neighborhood. The benefit cannot be sought through other means. The requested variances are not substantial. There will be no adverse impact on the physical environment, and the alleged difficulty was not self-created. There are no neighbors who have voiced objections to the application. You'll have 6 months to start, 1 year to complete. And what kind of survey, Tom, will you need?
Foundation survey should be fine at this point to get started.
Okay. We'll need a foundation survey then.
Okay,
I'll second that.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
Yes,
Anthony Giardina,
Yes,
Harvey Bonaparte,
yes,
Howard Dubs,
yes,
Michael Nolan.
Yes.
thank you. You have your variance.
thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice night.
Take care.
next is Gregorio.
Mr. Gregorio?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry. I didn't realize I had to speak.
No problem. The way we usually start is you tell us why you've made an application for a variance.
Sure. So I'm just looking to basically put a shed pad that's 12 by 14 base to put a 10 by 12 shed to the left side of my driveway. And as you guys probably can see from the drawing, that there isn't much room on the left side of the driveway where it would satisfy the 45-foot setback from the side neighbor line. So what I was looking to do is basically just have the shed pad built in that area, just past the top left side of the driveway, where it would be very close to the property line, but not on it, obviously. And I also, like the previous gentleman, I don't have any objections from the neighbor that would be impacted the most from it. He cannot even see it from his property.
This is where we usually ask, how did you come up with this location? And given the fact that there's a good size amount of land here, why is it you could not put it in another location that would have resulted in a no variance or a smaller variance?
That's a very good question. So it is deceiving. It does look, the majority of the property is the front of the yard. It's very private in that sense. And the backyard is really the only location, because as you get further to the right, right of the wood deck, you would actually see it as you're coming up the driveway. And the backyard is extremely steep, to the point where, I mean, I'm not an architect by any means, and I don't know how to describe the slope, but it's dangerous, like for my kids to even go near it because you could fall down into the woods. So I don't have that much room past that wood deck where it's actually usable. My backyard is actually very small. It's all, the preserve behind the house. So I've scratched my head a million times on this, and that's really the only location I came up with. Because I like to get some heavy equipment like snow blower out of it occasionally, and there's no way I can get any heavy equipment across the yard in the backyard and have a shed there where it would make sense. It's just too steep back there. To be honest, the majority of the backyard is unusable.
Is the backyard part of the yard that's closest to Hammond Ridge Road?
Closest to Hammond. I'm not sure I understand the question. Hammond Ridge Road is in the front of the house.
I'm having trouble with the survey.
Well, I see a wood shed there next to your
Correct.
driveway.
Yes, to the right. That actually came with the house.
So
And
what? Yeah.
My goal is to eventually, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you want to keep that wood shed and also put in another shed?
For now, but I think eventually I'd like to get rid of that shed and open up, because it sort of blocks the path to get to the backyard through where the generator is. There's really not, I think the previous owner did that to protect his kids as well from wandering off from the driveway, because the backyard is so sloped. I'm not exaggerating the amount that it falls off. It's pretty steep, and to the point where we're probably gonna have to get some sort of fence or regrade or something, but in the future. But and that's sort of what's in the back of my mind, that if I ever need some sort of heavy trucks back there to get some leveling done, or any sort of, there's really no way to get to the backyard unless you go all the way around to the right. So I don't think I'm going to eventually keep that shed on the right.
So that the shed we're just talking about is for storage of firewood? Is that what that?
Yes,
by
and
wood shed?
and some of my tools, right, and my snow blower, some of the heavy equipment. That's why I ideally need it closest to the driveway, and that's really the only piece of property that makes sense. And the location would more than likely, probably the majority of the shed wouldn't even be seen. It's certainly not by my neighbor, but I'd be surprised if it's even seen from the road. It's pretty.
To have two sheds right next to each other is not usually what we like to see. Would you be willing to take your shed down now rather than later, if we would approve the new shed you want to install?
I don't necessarily have a problem with that, removing the second one. My brother-in-law voiced interest in taking it. So as long as I can get somebody to cart it out of here, relatively soon. Like you had mentioned earlier, everyone seems to be using COVID as an excuse in terms of work, including the contractors. So I actually don't have any issue with that at all. But the other one I have to note is smaller. It's not a 12 by, it's not a 10 by 12. I believe it's like an 8 by 10. If I'm not mistaken, but yeah, I mean, I don't have an issue with that, because ideally I think I would like to open that up.
Okay. So that's a bargaining point.
Right.
Carrie, do you see anyone with their hand up who wishes to speak to this application?
I don't. If anyone's interested in speaking, you can raise your digital hand or hang on one moment. There is someone who typed into the chat, who I think is also on the panel. William Gregorio, did you type? Is there a different William Gregorio?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I typed anything.
Okay, well, someone typed in, I own the adjacent lot at
Oh,
3
okay, that's
Hammond Ridge.
yes, that's my neighbor.
Okay,
He owns, yeah, that's Dave typing in. I had sent the information to him. He also sent a letter that I attached to the application. He stated that he had no objection to it, and he does own the lot right, as you're driving up to my property. He owns number 3 to the left, which would be the most significantly impacted by any of this.
okay, Dave, would you like to speak? You can unmute yourself if you're interested in speaking.
He may not have a microphone, but
Okay.
can you see what he wrote?
everyone should be able to see it in the chat box. It just says, he shares a lot line with 5 Hammond Ridge Road, and he's in favor of the application.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me. It's my first time trying to do a Zoom on a phone, on a mobile phone, but if you can hear me, just say okay. But I am in favor of the application. I live adjacent to Bill, and I'm not going to be impacted at all. There's heavy foliage between the two lots, which makes visibility on anything that's going on his side of the property line almost impossible to see. So I'm in favor of the application.
Okay, thank you for your comments. We appreciate that.
And there's no one else raising their hand.
Okay. Anything else from any other board member? I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
Yes?
Anthony Giardina,
Yes,
Harvey Bonaparte,
Yes,
Howard Dubs,
Yes.
Michael Nolan.
yes.
Would like to make a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the application of William Gregorio for the installation of a shed requiring a side yard variance. The shed is going to be placed within 1 foot of the side yard property, side yard line, which would make it a 34-foot variance. I move that we approve that for the following reasons. There is really no place on this property suitable because of this topography to put the shed that the homeowner requires. The granting of the variance will not make it create an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood. There is no other method to achieve the desired end. This is a very substantial variance, but in this particular instance, it is something that we should not take into consideration because of the topography of the property and the position of the house and the driveway on that property. There will be no adverse effects to the physical environment of the neighborhood. This is not a self-created hardship, in that there was really no suitable place other than that for the shed. And he's being constrained by the position of his house and the topography of the property. The applicant has agreed to remove the existing wood shed on the property in consideration of this variance, and we would expect that to be done upon the granting of the variance or shortly thereafter. Those details are to be worked out by the building department. If in fact the shed is never removed, then the variance should be rescinded. You have 6 months to start and 1 year to finish, and we will need a completed as-built survey after the new shed is put in.
Mr. Giardina, one comment on the motion on the condition of the removal of the existing shed.
I knew that was going to be a problem.
Is that have to be done before the new shed can be installed, or is it that's?
Well, I don't want to force the issue on that regard, because I know there are time constraints involved. But as our legal counsel, maybe you can guide me on how to word it so that he can go ahead with the project on the condition that he will follow through and remove that shed. How can we do that?
The problem is if he installs the new shed, and then it turns out the condition is not satisfied, then you would have to make the property owner remove the new shed. I think there should be if the board doesn't want to have it so that the old shed is removed before the new shed's put in, then I would put a time period on it when the old shed has to be removed, and as part of the condition is any new shed if the old shed is not removed, the new shed's going to have to come out too. I think that would be an appropriate.
Yeah, I would like to do that, but I don't want to create any undue hardship on the homeowner. We're here to help people, not to harm them.
Sure.
If we can word this in such a way that he can proceed with his project, and if he agrees and understands that what you just said, that if he doesn't follow through on the removal, that we will make him remove everything.
Right. And I think the condition can say that. The applicant can comment on if that's not acceptable, but.
That's what I'm gonna say. Can we get a comment now from the applicant as to whether or not he would agree to those terms?
That's totally fine. I have no issue removing the shed, and I'll do it sooner rather than later. Again, that's probably the easiest part of this, so that should not be an issue at all.
Why
I
don't
would
you
just put in a time period when the old shed has to remove, then I think that's the easiest.
Or
way to do it.
Eric, can you just say that the removal of the shed is not a condition to the building permit? That it
Right.
just has to be done before the final approval.
Well, is the building inspector going to grant C of O for the shed then? We need a C of O for the shed once it's installed?
Well, how does that work, Tom?
That is correct. So we can not issue the CO if the original shed is still in place, and then they have the original 6 to 12 months to complete the project. Either they come back for an extension of time, or the variance is null, and then they get rid of both sheds.
Right, so the issuance of the C of O could be conditioned upon removal of the old shed, I think. And then if more time is required, as Tom said, then they could get a further extension if there's a problem removing the old shed.
Yes, sir.
I'm okay with that if the homeowner's okay with that.
I'll second.
Chairman Kenneth Cooper.
Sorry
you're-
for the interruption.
All right,
My
in
son's
favor.
young.
Anthony Giardina,
Yes,
Harvey Bonaparte,
Yes.
Howard Dubs,
Yes.
Michael Nolan.
Yes.
Thank you. Your variance has been granted.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone's time. Sorry for the interruption. My son just ran in.
he's a cute little kid.
Thank you.
He's a cutie.
Thank you. He's intrigued by all the profiles.
We are recruiting for zoning board members in training, so
He's always looking to help, so. I'll send
Youngest
that-
person to ever appear before the zoning board.
Okay. Say hi and thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Ken, before you call the next application, I'm going to have to recuse myself from that discussion. Are you going to do the minutes first?
We did that already.
You did them? Or that's right, I'm sorry. All right, so I'm going to recuse myself because of my relationship with the property owner adjacent to the applicant. And Carrie will take me off the screen, and I'll leave the meeting. Carrie, is that the best way to do it?
Eric, it's up to you. I can transfer him over to become an attendee and take him out of the panelist, or I sent the other link.
Right, if Mr. Bonaparte, if you have do you have the other link, and then you could just leave this meeting and re-sign and re-come back in as a member
Yeah,
of the
that's
public.
fine. That's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay, very good. See you all.
Bye, Harvey.
Good evening.
I would,
Before we start the other case, I just want to interrupt. I do see that there are a couple people here for 361 Sarles Street, and that application was actually moved to October's meeting. So I don't know if they're aware of that. They're not on the agenda for tonight's meeting. They got switched to October.
Oh, hi. I'm David Stanton here for 361. It got moved to October?
It
Meeting?
did, because there's an
Okay.
additional variance that's needed. So we're gonna renotice it for October, and you'll be at the October meeting for both variances.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
as the public is aware, Mr. Bonaparte has recused himself from this next matter of Texas. And we have polled the remaining members of the board, and they have assured us that there are no conflicts that exist, and we will be able to move forward with 4 members of the board.
Okay, you ready for the next one? And it's Keski?
Right, that's the one we've been talking about.
Okay, let's do it.
Mr. Keksis?
Hi, how are you?
Very good.
Good. How does this typically work? This is new for me.
Well, we could change it up just for you, but why don't we stay with the way we've been doing it? What that consists of, if you would just, in your own words, just explain to us what it is you're seeking to do on your property and why a variance or variances are required.
Yeah, sure. I'll start, and then I think it probably makes sense to have the landscape architect, who has a very intimate knowledge with the property, speak as well. But you know, as it relates to my property, we want to put in a pool. And originally, when we were designing our backyard, and it was going to be a two-phase project, we wanted to make sure that there was a pool site. So when we put in the patio, we intended to have a location right behind the patio, and then on the side yard, or I guess to the what would be the west of the patio. When we were originally constructing our patio and they were digging for the retaining wall, they located many boulders which disrupted the natural soil, and we had to extend out where you now see the fire pit, and it's got that outward shape. That was supposed to be originally 7 or 8 feet closer, which wouldn't have caused the need for a variance. But we always knew that we would have the second location on that side of the property. Unfortunately, when we started doing a little more work, we discovered that that was in conflict with the county health codes because of the necessity for a 50-foot setback from the expansion area of the septic, not just the septic. And so as a result, there were no other suitable locations for the pool. And so that is why we are here seeking a variance. And I believe that my landscape architect has a lot more detailed analysis for you with regards to that as well.
Okay, before we get into anything else, I just need to get a question answered. I think there's a problem with the application. The applicant is asking for a 24-foot variance, but that doesn't include the pool equipment. I scaled it. Unfortunately, there's no measurements on the plan, but I did scale it. And the pool equipment is only 17.5 feet from the property line. So they may be needing to request a 32.5-foot variance, not a 24-foot variance. So before we go too far, we need to get that resolved, because this may have to change the way the application is handled. Can we get some input from the building department on that?
Can we bring the screen up from the landscape architect so we can see that?
Mr. Sanic, can you share your, okay, yep.
Yeah, I can. If I can share my screen with you, I also have an illustration which will help me describe the location of the pool and the pool equipment. Give me just one moment.
Are you able to confirm the dimension from the pool equipment to the property line?
I cannot confirm the dimension of the pool equipment to the property line, but as the rectangle that's shown for equipment, that would be relocated within the area within the setback and not as shown on the drawing. I believe that was an error. And as discussed with the building inspector, we had always measured the requested variance to be from the pool patio to the property line, which is our request for a proposed 24-foot rear yard setback variance where a 50-foot setback is required. So as part of our conversation tonight, the pool equipment, which is located in this area here, would be relocated up adjacent within the setback that's required.
So where would that be? On the east side of the pool?
Correct. On the west side of the pool or the east side of the pool adjacent to the retaining wall.
I'm sorry, I don't think either or actually works for us. Where are you going to place it?
I don't know if you need me to share what's on file for the applicant.
That would be helpful, I think, Carrie, if you can.
Okay, sure. No, hang on one second. I have a one that's turned the right way. I did it again. Okay. Let me know if this is the area you want to look at.
I think if you could scroll down, I think,
Okay, this plan?
yes, that's what we want to see, I think,
Okay.
yes.
That's correct. L 200, which is 3 pages
Okay.
down.
It doesn't have the pool on it.
Right.
This one.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
There you go.
So north is pointing up, south is down to the bottom of
Right.
the page. We would either move it to the west where we have a planting scheme adjacent to the pool paving, or we could place it adjacent to the retaining wall on the east side, tucked up against the retaining wall, feeding the pool from there, both within the rear yard 50-foot setback.
One other question, why can't the pool itself be moved to the east and to the north in that little spot? And where it would be, if not needing a variance at all, it would mean very minimal variance. It's right in that area.
It's
Is
a
that
good
possible?
question, but that's the furthest location from any patio connections or views from the kitchen, the outdoor kitchen, the interior of the house. It is completely out of the way and out of the view from any of those social locations, which are important connection when planning a pool and having children and making sure you keep an eye on things. We had looked at several different options, knowing that the health department requirements restricted us from placing it more to the west. And this was an opportunity that we saw was the best fit and still connected to the outdoor spaces that were previously established.
I'm sorry, we're not trying to redesign this. So just to be clear on that, but I'm sorry, I did not follow the logic as to why the pool couldn't be placed within the setback, closer to the patio. Yes, in that general area, yes, where the cursor is right now. Doesn't that give you more?
This area here, or where the hand is?
Where the hand, yes.
Correct.
Doesn't that give you more accessibility to the patio?
No, because there's a series of stairs down here and 2 terraces that work down from the outdoor kitchen. And then the interior spaces of the house, which are the kitchen and the family room, are on the opposite side or the west side of the house, which have a more direct visual connection and physical connection to the patio, to the fire pit, to the pool. As where the pool being on the east side where the hand or cursor is fairly disconnected from the social spaces that had been previously established.
And there's one other reason as well, and that is, as I was mentioning, when we were building this, if you look at that lower retaining wall, how it's completely bumped out, it was never designed to be that way, and it had to be designed because of the rubble. And when we were constructing this, because of that, that footing on there is actually 5 feet wide, which was required by the previous building inspector, I believe, Bob Cioli. And so that actually extends further out. And then there's a hill that goes down, which was needed to be installed there to have that footing buried 42 inches, I believe it was, below ground. And so in order to even try and put a pool there, you'd have to have that set back 5 to 10 feet from that wall, which is going to put you right back in the same situation you're in now.
What is that feature in between the patio and the pool? I'm sorry, circular.
That's a fire pit.
Okay,
And it is set in stone as well, so it wouldn't be possible to move. We have some pictures in the response that we submitted today that I think can make it a little easier to visualize what we have here.
Jackie, is that in the, on E-code?
That was filed, that should be on E-code, the last response letter that was submitted by James today.
And if I can share my screen, I have some of those pictures in my
Sure.
computer now.
You should be able to share it.
Not sure if you can see that. That's a picture of
we
the
can.
fire pit.
yes, we can.
Gives a kind of a good description of the flatness of the rear yard in this location, as well as the extensive vegetative screening that's in place. And this is 2 steps down from the main patio or terrace that's in this location here.
So is that the swim and tennis club that would be through that vegetation on the other side?
Correct.
Right, so we have all of the extensive vegetation that we have put in on our own dime. Then you have the 50-foot zone that, they have, left unimproved. And then you have their golf putting green that they installed sometime around 2004, right at that 50-foot yard, or 50-foot line. But as you can see from my property, there is a 0% chance that they can see the swimming pool from their property.
And I actually had taken a little time today to put together a cross-section establishing some of these relationships with the 50-foot required buffer, as well as our vegetated buffer. They're kind of leveled. I think it's a putting range in this location, and the kind of vertical change of relationship from the club to Dan's residence.
So is the fire pit in the vicinity or on top of where this ledge rock is?
It is if you can see in the cross section, the pool, if you can see my cursor, the little hand, the fire pit is actually up about 2 or 3 steps. So it's all kind of terraced in a gentle way. And then you have your upper terrace here. And if that helps, this is the fire pit.
I think we still have your original screen up, the rendering of the fire pit.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay.
Try that one more time. How's that?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
And to give you the overall. So these are the relationships between the fire pit here, the swimming pool about 3 or 4 steps down, and then the grade that continues down across to the swimming rec club. The 50-foot required vegetated buffer, our vegetated buffer on our side, and the property lines that exist. I can zoom up if you would like that.
Just on what we're looking at right now. So would it be accurate to say that the tallest pine trees are actually on the swim and tennis club, but the deciduous trees to the other side are on your property?
Now, we actually have pictures that we have taken that were in that response letter that we sent. I think we could probably share them. We have put in on my property line, pretty much, within 5 feet of the property line, over 40 Norway spruces, which have now grown from 2015 to today. We put them in at 5 to 6 feet. They're now 18 to 20 feet. If you take a step back, there's a 50-foot buffer zone between my property and the chain link fence at Chappaqua Swim and Tennis. They have done nothing to maintain that whatsoever. There's dead trees in there, knocked down fence, knocked down trees. So they really haven't installed any vegetation on their end whatsoever along any of the residential boundaries in this area. So all of the trees that we have been installed by me or the previous owner of my house in that buffer zone. Would it help to pull up pictures of that, or?
If they're available, it couldn't hurt, I suppose.
Sure.
We're less concerned about the swim and tennis club's property and what they've done. We are interested in the screening that exists between the two properties, and anything that you want to tell us about, visual modifications that you've made.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
not sure if this
James, do
picture,
you have the pictures you can show?
this, but there are a whole in fact, there's recently installed 22-foot or 22 individual spruce trees that have grown over, the duration of, Dan owning the property, and they all measure between 18 and 22 feet or somewhere in that vicinity. And on top of it, there's an existing deciduous tree that really blocks the overhead. So a combination of the evergreen screening at the base that is of a substantial height, even from the neighboring property, you can't see into this property at all year round. And a swimming pool typically is used from, late May or June into September, while the leaves are in place. And even with the leaves falling, you still cannot see into the property.
If it helps, James, let me share my screen here. I think that could be beneficial. Let me see if I can do this here. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Are you guys able to see this?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is my existing patio. If you look straight back, those are the Norway spruces right there that I installed. This is a view from the side of the yard. All of those spruces there, you can see it is very, should I zoom in a little bit? Let me see. There you go. It would be very challenging to see anything through there. This is the view from the fire pit. Now, when you go behind my tree or my trees to their property, this is what you see on their property, directly in back of my trees. This is their fence. This is the tree over their fence. This is more of the property. So if you look to the right here, those are my Norway spruces right here. And this is their buffer zone that they are supposed to maintain. And then I acquired a drone the other day so that we can take a picture just to make sure we know what their view looks like. You'll see the active recreational facilities on that border, the putting green, basketball courts, bocce courts. You zoom in. This is their fence from that eye level using the drone. And you'll see it is covered with leaves. There is no shot you'll see my pool. if you scroll here, this is right above here and 50 feet away is where my pool was going to go. This is their beautiful view of their fence. And this is a zoomed out view of their fence. You can see right in the corner there, my neighbor's house a little bit with the lack of their screening. And so this is the existing situation from eye level using a drone of what exactly they are looking at. You will never, ever, ever see the pool.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any member
Okay,
of,
can we go from screening, which seems to be more than adequate, to handling the runoff from this property? We know it's all a downward slope. What's going to be the situation with the pool itself? Is it going to be winterized by draining or by some other methods? Will you be draining the pool in the wintertime?
The pool will be drawn down to put on a permanent cover. It's only drawn down just below the inlets and the skimmer boxes.
And
Nothing
where
was
water-
ever discharged to the neighboring properties.
where will you discharge that water?
We can discharge it to the lawn adjacent to the retaining walls, or if the building inspector and the engineers require, we can add an infiltrator to collect the drain off of the pool for the winter time.
Yeah, because I'm also going to ask you about the filter. Are you using a sand filter or an earth filter?
We would be using an earth filter and a salt system.
Which doesn't require a backwash.
No,
If a sand filter would require a backwash, that would be a major water problem.
correct.
Okay. Okay, I got my questions answered. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is that chain link fence, is that on the property line of the club where the tree fell over, so the tree fell onto your property, or is that?
No, so I have installed my own fence on my property line. And then they have that 50-foot, as they call it, not maintained, woodland. Then they have their chain link fence there, which I believe is the pool fence for their pool. And then that tree fell down on that during Hurricane Sandy, and it's been there for the last 8 years.
So their pool is not protected by a fence completely?
That's not up for me to determine, but I would imagine that the appropriate people would, look at that if they needed to.
Tom, is there anything that we haven't covered or anything that you would like to bring to our attention about this application?
One second. Yes, the applicant and the designer painstakingly moved the pool's location around the property to comply with the Board of Health restrictions. Did not give them a lot of choices. We did have many renditions, and it's just an oversight that the equipment was left on this rendition. That was intended to be moved off to the side. We didn't think of that. So we can make a final determination tonight, pool equipment, and they can choose left or right based on their determination. It would be outside of a variance requirement. We really tried to make this the minimum variance possible. The site is difficult. I did do a site visit. The terrain, even though looking beautiful, is hard to traverse in construction of a pool and a patio adjacent to it. So this was the best choice and best fit. And we've been at this for about 3 months now trying to fit this in.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's helpful. Any other member of the board who has a question?
Well, so Tony brought up the fact that, is this a 24-foot variance or a 32-foot variance?
24, because they're going to move the pool equipment.
They're moving the equipment, okay.
Yes. Going once, going twice. Does anyone feel compelled that they have to go out and see this?
No.
Okay. I move that we close the public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry, Carrie.
There was someone, if you're interested in speaking, just raise your hand. I will open your line. You should be able to speak. Just unmute yourself.
Hi,
Hello.
this is Beth D'Alessandro. I'm the president of Chappaqua Swim and Tennis. I would first like to make it clear that we have no objections to the Keskis putting a swimming pool in their backyard. And we also do not necessarily have an objections to the variance that they're looking for. However, as the president of CST, I don't think I would be doing my job if I didn't ask a few questions regarding this variance. Of course, you know, noticing that the property line slopes downward from the Keskis property to Chappaqua Swim and Tennis, we're very concerned to make sure that the proper engineering plans were put in place detailing the drainage and runoff from their swimming pool to our property. You know, as we would most likely be the recipients of any runoff. And I would also like to make sure that a town engineer has studied these plans properly and approved them. The second problem we also—
I'm sorry, Ms. D'Alessandro, before you go on, hold on just a second. Tom, do you want to speak to the first point?
All applications will be reviewed by building and engineering throughout the process. So there is not a concern with that. And the applicant will submit engineering drawings that are required by the town and the town engineer.
Great. The second point that we'd really like to address is the screenage and any additional screening that will be coming in. We really bring this up more for the Keskis concern than the concern of Chappaqua Swim and Tennis. Mr. Keskis has made it pretty clear that he's been dissatisfied with the amount of screenage that there's been between the two property lines. And he also recently purposefully went out and asked his neighbors to write in letters detailing at times how disruptive and annoying it can be to have a property line next to a swim and tennis club.
Ms. D'Alessandro, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You know, that is not something that we need to discuss at this meeting.
Understood. I was just, as I read the letter.
I'm sorry, could I just finish?
Sure.
How the swim and tennis club operates is subject to a special use permit that's in effect, and we're not here to discuss that this evening.
Understood. I'm concerned with the placement of the Keskis swimming pool, that he could possibly find the noises coming from our club upon general usage. You know, our normal business hours will be in, supposedly, I'm sure, when Mr. Keskis and his family is trying to enjoy his new swimming pool. I'm concerned that his family will have problems with those noises based on the letters that I was reading from his neighbors.
Well, I understand the point.
And again, only based on feedback that we've had from Mr. Keskis in the past.
Okay.
I'm more concerned really for the Keskis family and the fact that they could possibly be disrupted by general noises coming from our club in the summertime.
Okay, I appreciate the fact that you've brought that up. I think that is something for the applicant to consider. I think there are many other instances in the town where people live adjacent to schools, playgrounds, things like that. And that's part of life in a hamlet like this.
Of course. And I am concerned with the placement that, you know, they could possibly find that disruptive, being that it's within the 50-foot setback that your town requires for a swimming pool.
Thank you. Is there anything else?
No, there's nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Mr. Keksis, is there anything in relation to her concern that you want to express? It's not necessary, but.
Yeah, look, I think that our response letter and that of you know, 100% of the residents that border Chappaqua Swim and Tennis's active facilities should really speak for themselves. You know, I think every one of us has mentioned that, you know, there's some level of noise that you should expect, but then there's unreasonable noises. But this is not really the forum for that, as you've indicated, and I'd prefer to, you know, keep this a separate issue.
Okay. Is there anything else that anyone else wants to bring up? Then I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Chairman Cooper,
Yes,
Anthony Giardina,
Yes,
Howard Dubs,
Yes.
Michael Nolan.
Yes.
would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
On the application of Eve and Daniel Keskes for the installation of a in-ground swimming pool. They're seeking a 20-foot rear yard variance. We have been shown pictures and gone over the site plan, and it appears that this is the best location for the pool. And the granting of this variance will create no undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. We understand that there are a number of neighbors that have pools. There is no feasible method other than the variance to achieve the benefit of this. The variance requested is not substantial, although it's not insubstantial, but it's not substantial for those reasons. And if the variance is granted, there'll be no adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. This is a self-created hardship, however. But as I said, this appears to be the best and optimal location for the installation of the pool and the patio. So based upon those reasons, I move that we grant the application for the variance.
I'll second that.
Howard, did you want to say time limit?
Yeah, yes, I'm sorry. 6 months to start, 1 year to finish.
Perfect, thank you.
Is the survey
And
required?
And final survey is going to be required.
Can we, Howard, would you mind if we added what my usual caveat is with these gunite pools? That the survey there be a survey performed before the gunite is shot to prove that the pool location is where we have given the variance for it, because it's always better to shoot, to have the survey before you shoot gunite, because you don't want to be chopping that stuff out later on.
I agree.
So it's easier to move them. It's easier to move the rebar and chop it all out. So I would add to yours, if you don't mind, that there be a survey prior to shooting the gunite.
I agree.
Thank you.
I have no problem with that.
Okay. Do we have to, I mean, should we discuss lighting at this point or not really?
I don't think lights are allowed in town anyway. We don't have to discuss.
They're not?
No, you can't put lights in a pool in town. Can you, Tom? Check me if I'm wrong.
To the best of my knowledge, lighting is not permitted.
That's what I thought.
Okay, so that's not an issue. Okay. So
Jerry, I'll second the motion.
It's a 12, so just to clarify, I didn't know, it's a 24-foot variance. I don't know if you
It's
said
24
20.
foot, I'm sorry, 24 foot.
Right.
Can I have a second?
I did. I thought I did that already. I'll
I'm sorry.
second that.
Okay.
Oh, no
So it's
problem.
fine.
No problem.
Jackie?
Chairman Kenneth Cooper,
Yes.
Anthony Giardina,
Yes.
Howard Dubs,
Yes.
Michael Nolan.
Yes.
Thank you. You have your variance.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a good evening.
So we already approved the minutes, so I guess, I don't know if there's anything else for the meeting, Jackie, as far as what needs to be done.
I'll move we adjourn.
I second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye and goodbye.